Travolting, covering Broken Arrow. Enjoy the episode. Broken Arrow. That arrow is broken, believe you me.
I've been a broken arrow all my life, Jeff.
You've been a broken arrow?
I've had
no sleep,
and no direction. My
and
quiver has been weak.
And a little bit radioactive.
And then the bow has been bowing and bending and breaking. Did you ever do archery?
No.
I did. I was a Boy Scout.
Oh.
Terrible.
Did you break an arrow once?
A few times.
Yeah.
A few times.
Well, you know what that has nothing to do with? This broken arrow. Because in this movie, it's referring to a missing nuclear device. That's right, folks. This week we're talking about the 1996...
Sorry.
A little earthquake.
I hit the table.
The 1996 action film Broken Arrow, directed by John Woo and starring the one and only John Travolta.
And Christian Slater.
I'm going to blow up the school.
You watched Heathers.
Yeah, I think we're just going to have to do something. I don't know what his line is.
Why? So, did you watch Heathers, I take it?
Well, not recently, but I've seen it. And
Okay.
I'm aware of his character.
Did you know that it's like an exact copy of another film that came out in the 70s where it's about like someone killing their classmates and popular kids?
I mean, there's quite a few movies with that basic topic.
Yeah, but it's like word for word. It's an IMDb trivia page. Sorry, folks. We're going to talk about Heathers for the first 5 minutes of the podcast. Let me look it up. Trivia. Hold on a second.
Stewart's, he's on the run. He's doing it.
I'm looking it up. Go. Just bear with me, folks. Okay. So there is another movie that came out in the 70s. I'm looking at for the title. Fuck, this is really awkward.
Do you know what the guy who wrote Heathers, Daniel Waters?
Yep, I found it, by the way.
Okay.
It's a movie in 1976 called Massacre at Central High.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
But the writer of Heathers, Daniel Waters, do you know that he wrote essentially 2 more major movies for the rest of his career? And then was more or less banned from Hollywood.
What 2 movies did he write, Jeff?
He wrote Heathers, and then everyone was like, yeah, that was a great script. This guy will definitely work well in the studio system. This guy who made a movie about destroying the systems that you're in.
Yeah.
So he wrote Batman Returns.
Oh, boy.
And Demolition Man.
Oh, boy.
And then he only worked on like super small movies for the rest of his career.
What happened? Demolition Man was a hit.
Batman Returns was a hit as well, but yeah. Batman Returns was there's a reason Tim Burton did not come back for the third one.
Right, but was Batman Returns
way too dark?
Yeah.
His script, it's obviously a movie about 3 people who use their costumes as a way to get sexual fantasies and get off, and because they are incapable of processing their trauma. It's a little hard for a superhero movie that Warner Brothers was trying to sell as a family experience.
But we want to sell McDonald's toys.
Deadass. Batman Returns started protest. I don't know if you're aware. There started protests for that movie.
Really?
Because it was they considered it way too dark. And then he wrote a Catwoman movie where Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman went to like a Las Vegas run by superheroes and destroyed the patriarchy in it. Wow. It was essentially Heathers, but in Las Vegas with superheroes.
What happened to this guy?
Warner Brothers said, no thank you. And he was essentially blacklisted from working as a major writer in Hollywood.
Is he still alive?
He's still kicking.
And he's not done any other big movie since?
He has directed 2 movies. One of them's called Happy Campers. The other one's called Sex and Death 101. And then he wrote another movie called Vampire Academy.
I feel like this guy did nothing wrong.
Oh, he absolutely did everything right.
And should be given another chance. Because I feel like nowadays in Hollywood, we are looking for that, albeit phony breaking the system, but it's nonetheless breaking the system-esque movies. Mm-hmm. So I feel like he would thrive today.
Exactly. He was writing movies, critiquing the system that he was writing the movies in.
Yeah.
Hollywood is a very fickle, ego-driven place, and when they get scripts written about them being fickle and ego-driven, they have a tendency to blacklist you.
You know who else is evil and ego-driven?
Who?
John Travolta and Broken Arrow.
Yes. Good segue to bring us back to Broken Arrow.
Which, I mean, not to jump right into the plot, maybe we should back up first. Do you have any pretenses and some information?
This movie has a fair bit of context to it.
Yeah.
We'll talk about Travolta first. He is coming off. By the way, folks, thank you for listening to our episode last week on Get Shorty.
Oh, yeah.
An episode we have definitely already recorded. It was a great time.
It was a phenomenal time. We love talking to Kathy and Mary Grace.
It was so much fun. We have definitely already done it.
They were on that episode, right?
Yes, they were on that episode.
They were on
that episode.
They were for sure on that episode.
Yes. Don't you remember? We have recorded it. They were on that episode.
I just was double checking.
They were there.
Okay, cool.
But yes, so he's back, baby.
Yeah, he's back. Pulp Fiction brought him back.
Single-handedly resurrected his career.
He had a little moment there with White Man's Burden.
But no one saw it.
No one saw it, so I guess it's fine.
By the way, can I just say, we're recording this episode the week that the Pulp Fiction episode dropped. We hope you folks enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But also, what a hell of a week we picked to start talking about Quentin Tarantino. Am I right?
Yeah.
A man who has said nothing controversial in the past week whatsoever on the same day that our episode dropped.
Yeah, I texted you.
A man who is not currently in a beef with Bruce Lee's daughter.
So I guess if you live under a rock and you only listen to this podcast, there's another small, tiny little podcast you may not know about called the Joe Rogan Podcast.
I don't think anyone's ever heard of that podcast.
I don't think I've never heard of it. I've never listened to it before. I don't know this Joe Rogan. I don't know how big he is, but Quentin Tarantino was a very highly requested guest on the Joe Rogan Podcast. And last week, or I guess this week, by the time you're listening to this episode, it would have been 2 weeks ago.
Possibly 3.
Possibly 3. Yeah,
yes.
Possibly 3. And a lot of things were said.
Yeah.
A lot of things were said.
We picked a great week to post that episode. It might have brought us some more traction. Who knows?
Have we checked our stats?
No. We'll do that when we finish this episode.
Okay.
But anyway, Pulp Fiction single-handedly brought back Travolta's career.
Single-handedly.
White Man's Burden, no one saw it, so it doesn't matter. We're actively trying to forget that we saw it.
Yeah.
We're working very hard at that. But
it's still got some scars.
He's back in the mainstream. He got his Oscar nomination. He's a proven box office draw again.
Mm-hmm.
He gets Get Shorty, which is kind of an evolution of his character in Pulp Fiction. The big reorientation he gets out of Pulp Fiction is it feels like every movie we've watched of him since Pulp Fiction he's essentially more or less playing a more villainous scumbaggy role.
Yeah, he's not afraid to take those roles on.
Yeah, he's kind of centered himself away from the heartthrob roles he used to have.
And he's played scumbags before, but they're always the good guys, the protagonist.
He's willing at this point to take a bath in the river of ham, give himself a little more of an edge in these movies.
Take a bath in the river of ham.
It's a
Jeff Sweeney.
It's a Kenneth Branagh quote, not mine.
Okay.
I'm not that clever. He told an actor on the set of Thor they should bathe in the river of ham. And you can definitely see it in that movie. But
okay, duly noted.
But he's willing to go outside of his box that he had trapped himself in the 80s.
Yeah.
He's willing to take on supporting roles. He's willing to take on villainous roles.
Yeah.
He's willing to just show himself in a not positive light. He got better damage control by removing his damage control, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I would agree. And this movie, Broken Arrow, really... Because Pulp Fiction was a little bit subtle.
Yes.
It was subtle in the sense that, I'm still the protagonist, but I'm not like the heartthrob, good-looking protagonist. This is like a door slam in the face of what he's willing to do.
This is
to stay A-list.
So this is like over the top supervillain performance.
Exactly.
And I love him in this.
And it doesn't do that right away either.
Yeah.
It's a reveal. Which here's the thing. I was watching Terminator 2 Judgment Day the other day.
A good movie.
A great movie. And something that a lot of people don't realize is I don't know how much of it was intended in the direction or the screenplay of the Arnold Schwarzenegger T-800 to be revealed as a good guy.
I know what you're talking about.
But it was
very intentional.
It was intentional for them to hide it until the moment in the mall,
yes,
or intentional for them to know he's a good guy from the get-go? Because I was told it was intended for him to be hidden as the good guy until the mall scene.
Until he pulls out the shotgun and then tells John Connor, get down.
Right. But the marketing ruined it.
Yes.
The marketing for T2, maybe you were the one who told me this.
I probably was.
But the marketing for T2 ruined it.
Yeah, it blew the trick.
It blew the trick. And
Because
I wonder about this movie.
That's the trick James Cameron was playing with Terminator 2.
Yeah.
James Cameron, has only done a few sequels. I mean, he's doing 4 sequels to Avatar now.
Yeah.
But, there's obviously when you make a sequel, there's people are going to go in with a mild bit of tension of, are they just going to repeat themselves?
Well,
And so James Cameron's trick is he makes you think he's repeating himself. Because the opening of the movie is Arnold Schwarzenegger. You think Arnold Schwarzenegger's coming back to kill the kid, and the Resistance has sent a person who's dressed as a cop, and cops are obviously good guys,
right,
in the 80s.
Good catch there.
Yes. And you think the cop is the good guy.
Right.
And it's not until that moment where Schwarzenegger's like, get down, and he pulls the shotgun and shoots the cop.
And the cop turns out to be a liquid metal Terminator.
Yes, that you're like, oh, Cameron's flipping the script on us. That's a really good twist.
But the marketing showed clear commercials of Linda Hamilton, who plays John Connor in that movie?
Eddie Furlong.
Eddie Furlong and Arnold Schwarzenegger tag teaming in the commercials and all that stuff. So it ruined the trick. And the reason why I bring that up is because this movie starts off with a John Travolta, Christian Slater brotherly
boxing
fight, and it shows them as partners, like a Top Gun, Maverick, and Goose sort of way. And then, I would even maybe 10, 15 minutes, John Travolta turns evil.
Yeah.
Immediate bad guy. Turns out he was the big bad all along. Because they do have they have Bob Gunton, who plays the warden in Shawshank Redemption in the first opening 5 minutes, and this came out after Shawshank.
Yeah,
and so
they're using his star status to kind of trick you.
Yeah, and I thought it was a good trick. I thought it was a really good trick because I thought I saw him and I immediately wrote down Bob Gunton parentheses Shawshank warden equals villain parentheses nope, because he's not the main villain. He is not the main villain in this story, and it does do a little trick. But I wonder about the same thing about the marketing, as this is showing Christian Slater and
fighting John Travolta,
Samantha Mathis tag teaming, and John Travolta being the bad guy in the commercials.
I'm not entirely sure.
I don't know either.
But
should we look up a trailer and see for ourselves?
Yeah, we'll look that up in a little bit.
Okay, cool.
I just want to. Oh God,
we are bumping this table a lot.
This is not good. But yes,
we switched venues, folks. We are no longer recording in my apartment. We are recording in a much bigger upgrade with a lot more perks. Jeff, would you like to announce where we have upgraded to?
We've upgraded to my apartment.
Yeah.
Big change.
Big change. No, I just had more roommates move in, so it's harder to keep quiet.
It's all good. Yeah, I'm gonna rewind a little bit.
Yes,
we'll bring up that trailer when we get back into the plot.
Okay,
I just want to finish with the context of where Travolta's at, and his role in this, he gets top billing.
He does
get top billing, but his role in this is something that only an A-list movie star would get or take.
Yeah,
because it's a prominent bad guy in a movie from a reasonably respected director.
Yeah, he's on the up and up.
Yeah.
He's done one movie beforehand that got a lot of major U.S. props.
Yeah. And this is a star vehicle.
Yes.
This is one of those 90s action movies that only makes money because it has 2 stars in it, and you want to see them in this movie together, facing off or teaming up.
Yeah, yeah.
And so he gets the offer, off of Pulp Fiction and Get Shorty. He does it, and this is another smart career choice for him.
It is.
He's popping up in a variety of different genres, showing his range, showing that he's not afraid to go really far out there.
Did you watch this and think this is the clear predecessor to Face Off? Same director, same bad guy-esque role.
And this is, I think, a clear predecessor of what Travolta's career is kind of nowadays. Mm-hmm. This is the first time he does a tried and true action movie. Mm-hmm. He shows his props for it. I think he performs really well on this.
Yeah.
In terms of doing the action, selling the character.
Yeah.
And he kind of makes himself an action guy after this. And eventually that comes around to bite him in the ass.
Yeah.
Which we'll talk about.
Well, and also, it helps that This movie has a lot of faults in it, 100%. It is a very much turn your brain off, eye candy action movie.
But it's fun and well made.
It's fun,
competently
well made, and his villain arc is well written too. No, let me back up.
He performs it well.
He performs it well, and there's opportunities for him to perform it well.
It is a totally acceptable character that he performs well and makes interesting.
Like his motivation for being bad's a little thin.
Yes.
There's not too much depth as to where he's coming from. But in terms of the twists and turns and his and his strategies, there's a lot of moments there for him to sell
he's
it
having
really
fun and selling
well.
it.
Yeah.
What he's doing is similar to the Mission Impossible 3 Philip Seymour Hoffman character.
Yes, that's
where that is among the most basically written villains of a movie.
Do we know why he's doing what he's doing? Like, what his childhood was like?
Rabbit's Foot.
Yeah.
His character is so written like stock.
Yeah.
Philip Seymour Hoffman just plays that so well.
Yeah.
And it's why everyone loves him in that movie.
I agree.
He turns a stock character and just makes them interesting with a good performance.
Yeah.
Which is what Travolta's doing here. This is a stock character.
Yeah.
Who Travolta is bringing a lot. He's popping into. He's having fun with it.
Mm-hmm.
He is obviously dialed into his character, to the performance, and to what the movie's trying to do, which is just give you a good time.
Yeah.
And he is there for it.
Very well said. Yeah.
And who shepherded him into this? But John Woo, the director of this movie.
Woo.
John Woo, who was an action director in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
Prior to coming to America, which he started with the film Hard Target, which is a Jean-Claude Van Damme vehicle.
That was his U.S. takeoff film, right?
That was his first U.S. film.
Yeah.
It was it did okay, but it just proved that he could work in the American, industry.
Yeah.
He got this immediately afterward. This movie didn't do so. It did okay, but it, proved his bona fides, however you say that word.
This is the second episode where we're questioning how to say it.
Yes, and we are going to keep questioning that. But between Hard Target and Broken Arrow, movies that did okay, they made their budgets back. They made a tidy little profit for the studio.
Yeah.
And this is the movie that almost propels him into mega action director stardom. It's not until his next movie, Travolta, that it really pops off.
Oh man, and we're going to talk a lot about that one. There's a little bit of a
Stuart and I are going to have a face-off.
We are going to have a face-off. There's a little bit of a face-off in that movie, both in the star sense and in the literal sense.
Yeah. But yeah, John Woo, a very interesting director who is very distinctive.
Yeah.
And it is the difference, along with Travolta's finding his place of being dialed in. This is what separates this movie from some of the action movies that we'll talk about in the future, is that there's a director with a very clear authorial voice in this movie. Mm-hmm. John Woo has a style.
Yeah.
He's doing that style.
Yeah.
And he has a point and a take on everything.
Yeah.
Even when it's over the top, even when it's a little goofy, maybe it's not even something I like, I at least appreciate that there is a guy who made that choice and feels about that choice.
And the technical craftsmanship of his movies are very well done.
There's a lot of slow-mo in this movie.
Yeah.
There's a very funny shot where it's John Travolta's face smiling and he slow-mos, and then it cuts to the window and he flicks the cigarette out in slow-mo. No point to it. Probably didn't need it. But at the same time, I'm just John Woo believed we needed that. He cared about that. And if he wanted that, sure. It works.
It seems very much like if he was arguing with a producer about these things, it'd be like, why do we need this in there? And he's like,
it looks good. It's going to work in the movie.
Right. There's a story about Bong Joon-ho, who I think it was one of his American films. So I want to say it was Snowpiercer, but he was arguing with a producer about one of the scenes. And he went on this long spiel about why it was so important. And then in the press junket, he's like, so why did you include that scene? He's like, I just really wanted it in there. Yeah. There's no point.
Yeah.
I just really wanted it in there. A
director has the vision. He's like, yeah, it's going to look cool and we're going to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Any much pretext to this film?
No, that's pretty much all the pretext. It's the combination of John Woo's rising stardom with Travolta's re-rising stardom.
Re-rising, because Christian Slater is in his rising.
Oh, yeah, and Christian Slater is, he's established at this point. He's had roles that have obviously, been successful, been big. But he's, just kind of a guy who's popping around. He's not, I would consider him, high B-list, maybe? He hasn't had, the role that's been Christian Slater is in every movie.
What? But he's in nothing now. Has he quit acting?
No, he's nowadays. No, he's still in things nowadays. He's in some TV show. No, he's in Mr. Robot. That Rami Malek show.
I don't watch Mr. Robot.
I've never seen it, but at this point for Broken Arrow, he's popping up in a lot of things like, Robin Hood and others. He has a cameo in Star Trek 6, which is very weird. I remember seeing that and questioning why he was there.
Yeah.
But he's an Interview with the Vampire.
Was he in one of the Scream movies?
He might have
Am I
been.
making that up?
He might have been in one of the Scream movies.
4 Scream movies?
I have not seen any of the Scream movies, I gotta confess. But he might be in one of them.
The first one's pretty good.
Yeah.
You gotta give the first one a chance for its art.
It's Wes Craven, so I'm very interested.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
But Krishner is he's a proven quantity in Hollywood.
He'll bring some money to it.
Yeah, they know what they're gonna get out of him. He's like well known enough that he can anchor a movie, if not anchor a movie.
Right.
He's not going to get you the $200 million opening weekend or something. He'll get you. He'll make back your budget.
He's a good counterbalance once you bring John Travolta, who is no longer the heartthrob. Yeah, and I would say Slater is still kind of in the heartthrob genre of his
Slater
career.
has enough of a heartthrob to countermatch Travolta's like A-list stardom and villainous in this movie.
Yeah, right. And then they just fucking throw in Bob Gunton into this movie. Like, did that not seem like in the first 5 minutes you see him, it's like, oh, he's gonna be a big villain role, and then the rest of the movie,
he sits in a car.
He sits in a car and complains.
He's literally.
And then spoiler, he dies.
Bob Gunton in this movie is your dad on a road trip. He starts out very animated, thinking you're gonna be a big shot, and then he sits in a car and complains.
He has like a moment at the beginning where it's almost like sets down the tone of how much of a villain he's gonna be, because I don't know, to get started into this one scene, we'll back up later, but like there's a fake park ranger who sees some campers and murders them right away. Bad guys. Like, that just gets across how cold-blooded these guys are. Cut to a later scene where they're like disposing the bodies, and Bob Gunton and the rest of the gang show up, and Bob Gunton looks and sees a body in the fire, and he says like, get that guy.
He's like, oh god.
Well, it's just kind of like, I didn't read as much as like a weak stomach, like out of his depth villain yet. Later it
not
does.
100%.
But at that moment it seems like, oh, like maybe he's just like that kind of villain, you know?
But then once you look back on it,
when you look back on it, it's like he's just like a weak stomach
It's
dad.
never even explained what like he does in this movie.
Or what he's doing.
Yeah, Travolta's just like, he gave me the money to pull this off so I could make him and his friends money. It's not explained, is he with the mob? Is he like
with another foreign government?
Is he just a rich guy? It's never established, and I kind of love that. This movie is not concerned with giving you like the understanding about why these things are happening, because it knows, as well as us in the audience do. Who cares? We're not here to understand why Bob Gunton wants the nukes. We're here to watch Travolta and Christian Slater face off.
We're not here to understand why a nuke going off underground is okay.
Yeah, we're here to just watch it happen because it looks cool.
Heads up, it's not. I wrote that down. I wrote down, this is later in the movie, but like a nuke does go off underground in a mine. And I wrote down, side note, pretty sure a nuke going off underground would still be, and I underlined this part, pretty fucking bad.
Pretty disastrous.
In this movie, it's like, oh, thank God it went off underground.
Yeah. It's like,
no issues with that, no radiation.
A crater formed.
Should we go from the very beginning then?
Yeah, let's start off because it starts really high up above a boxing ring.
Yes.
And we're down on Travolta playing Vic Deakins.
Vic Deakins.
Yeah, who we can just call Deke.
Deke?
Yeah.
They do call him Deke.
Yeah, they call him Deke.
Yeah.
Big Deke energy. He's got big Deke energy. And then
oh God.
There's and then Slater is playing Captain Riley Hale.
Riley Hale. What a fucking
who we
name.
can just call Hale. Yeah, I love the names in this movie. Vic Deakins and Riley Hale. Oh, they don't write them like they used to.
So it's a boxing match.
Yeah, they're partners in the Air Force. They fly a stealth bomber together.
Yeah, they're airmen, and they're in a boxing match, and a clear thing that John Woo wants you to know is John Travolta's whooping this guy's ass.
Travolta is
just wiping the floor with
all
him.
the time he spent with Stallone. He understands how to box. But he's
don't go there.
He's but you know, it's
Jeff.
Yeah.
Is Jack Nicholson's just gonna hang out there for a while?
Yeah, that if you folks heard that door open, that was Jackie came back in. How you doing, guys?
Hey, Jack, can you please?
I'm gonna hang out.
No, Jack. Hey, we're in the middle of recording. This can't happen for the rest of this era, man.
All right. Take your medicine, you little shit.
Okay, so all right.
Jack just left.
Thank you, Jack.
I can't. You were so mean to him there.
Well, listen, I admire him being around, but we got a fucking podcast to record. We give him a 2-week notice of these things.
3-time Academy Award winner Jack Nicholson just walked in on our recording.
We give him a 2-week notice that these are going to happen on these days and times.
Yeah, he showed up a little late.
Is this really going to happen every time?
No, you brought it up this time. You pointed him out. I was content to just let him stand there.
All right, so
he's an actor known for his ability to be subtle. He's known for never losing his cool.
Okay, so they're boxing.
Yes, they're boxing.
John Travolta wipes the floor with him, and that's where they instill this like money bet thing on when they beat each other.
They each owe each other $20, and a big thing is that Travolta's talking about how you win at boxing. He's like, it's about the fake outs.
It's the rope-a-dope?
Yeah, the rope-a-dope.
The rope-a-dope from Ali and Foreman.
Which is that you make him think, you convince your opponent what you're going to do, and then you do the opposite.
Right.
Like you get ready to punch with your right hand, but then you uppercut with the left.
Right.
And they're preparing to block your right hook, but you hit him with the left.
Yeah.
And it sets up Travolta's like kind of modus operandi in this movie is that he's
modus operandi.
Yeah, his MO. Whoa. His MO.
Big words are being said here, folks.
But it sets up his MO that he's always striking with the left when you think he's coming from the right.
Yeah, right.
It sets up his turn. It sets up a lot of the choices he makes in this movie.
Yeah.
There are choices made in this movie.
And it's at this point when I'm like thinking, okay, maybe he's like a mentor, brotherly figure to Slater. Like he's sort of training him and teaching him his ways. And
that's kind of it. It's established in the next scene where they're called to meet with their like commanding officer.
And he's smoking a cigarette. And he's like, are you going to smoke a cigarette? And then that's immediately when I found out, oh, John Travolta's the Qui-Gon Jinn of this movie.
Yeah. Travolta's they would have put you on the council if only you'd not let them in your mouth. But, he's
this is before the scene that we're going to get to later.
He's the same rank as Slater, even though he's older than him. And it's because he has like Jack, I'm telling you, you gotta go.
Jack Nicholson, come on, man.
I'm just trying.
Oh my gosh.
Jack.
Thank you, Jack.
Thank you. Okay.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, that was definitely Jack Nicholson opening that door. It's really weird.
Yeah.
But it's established that they're the same rank, but Travolta's older, and because his like disregard for authority, he's never been promoted. He's never been able to move up, even though due to his skill, he should be higher. So he's got a little bit of a grudge against like the structure of the military that he's in.
He's against the patriarchy.
Yes. I would say as a guy who's very much a part of the patriarchy as John Travolta is, he's a little more opposed to the systems of the military.
Yeah, I mean,
yes,
I have a lot of family members in the military who would probably sympathize with John Travolta's.
And that because
they wouldn't steal 2 nukes, but...
Yes. And,
well, actually, wait, let me think about that for a second. No. None of them would steal 2 nukes.
I'm glad to know.
Yeah.
But yeah, he has a I'm trying to think of... He has a something on his shoulder... Chip on his shoulder, that's the phrase. I just had like a brain fart.
Yeah.
He has a chip on his shoulder against, his commanding officers and the military for never giving him his due, even though he's committed like 20 years of service to them.
Yeah.
He doesn't feel the reciprocation there.
And like, as much as in depth as Jeff and I are going into this like premeditated backstory, which is going to lead to his villainous thing, the movie doesn't treat it with this much care.
Yes.
Like, it's kind of like just like throwing little bits and pieces for you to understand enough to buy him as a villain.
But that's exactly what separates, a bad action movie from this, which I would consider a solid 7 out of 10 action movie. And I don't mean that as a bad thing.
I would say 7.5. I actually, I had some moments where I was really like it.
I think the 7 out of 10 action movie is underappreciated. It's like something you can really enjoy, has just enough meat on it that you can chew on it for a little bit.
Where would you put Independence Day?
Independence Day? Oh. Yeah, we are recording this the day after the 4th of July. Independence Day is a perfect movie. I will hear no slight against it. But...
All right, case closed. Moving on.
Yeah, Independence Day rules. But like I was saying, what separates this from like the 7 out of 10 action movie, which is to me just like a well-crafted, entertaining movie.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of comparatives.
It's not about the script. Like the script is almost always like
cookie cutter.
It's like a 4 out of 10 script that a good director and a good cast elevate the material, understand like the quirks of the script, and make it a good script.
I'm trying to think of comparatives because I know what you're saying, but
John Wick. John Wick is the ultimate comparative.
Oh, yeah.
John Wick, as a script, is just dude's dog dies, he goes after revenge. It's totally competent. It has all the beats. It's a perfectly adequate 3-act structure, a script that Hollywood would be like, yes, this is how you write a script.
But it's the direction and the added flair of Keanu Reeves.
The script is it's like the concrete. It's like totally acceptable concrete.
Yeah. It's a good foundation.
But it gives the foundation for them to build something really cool on. As opposed to like a really sloppy script, which is cracked concrete. Your building might collapse if you build it on top of it.
Which are the sequels.
Yes.
I mean,
the John Wick sequels are great.
This John Wick sequel...
John Wick 2 is the best one.
I disagree, only in the sense that I agree very much with what you said on the first one, that it is a cookie cutter action movie script that's given flair with its direction and cast. I felt like it almost did way better for its own good.
John Wick was an unexpected smash hit.
1 second. I'm just going to adjust levels real quick because you're doing a phenomenal job talking to the mic, which I normally compensate for. Anyway, you don't need to clap or sing. It's fine. So, John Wick. Well, what about the 90s, though?
90s.
This is a perfect era for these movies.
This is your movies like, Air Force One, The Fugitive.
Yes.
Clear and Present Danger. I'm just listing Harrison Ford movies. But
you are.
all your 90s action movies where the scripts are totally adequate. They're competent 3-act structures, a few good lines scattered throughout. But they give a good director and a good actor enough meat to chew on that makes the iconic action movies of this era.
Yeah.
And I think Broken Arrow, while not an iconic action movie of the era, I don't think it fits. I don't think it's that. I think it has all those hallmarks that make it such an entertaining movie and like a perfect 7 out of 10 like entertaining time at the movies.
I would say this was fairly easy to sit through and watch. It wasn't like painful.
Yeah, I sat through this with no problems. I had a great time watching it.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, I was like, all right, some empty calories, but good time, competently made, great cast.
Yeah.
And that's, how I think about these movies.
So they're being sent on a mission to fly these B-3 bombers that are armed with 2 nuclear warheads.
Yes, they're transporting them.
And
it's also like a test.
This mission they're given is a little bit obscure.
A little dodgy.
Yes. Because it's just like, we're just going to move 2 nuclear warheads across. By the way, when we get into the crash and all that stuff, there's a story I want to tell you about, but we'll get to that later.
But it's also like a trial test for this new bomber. Because it's a stealth bomber. Yeah. And Delroy Lindo, the king, is in the control room, and he's going to try and detect their plane and see if he can locate it.
Right.
While they're doing this.
Yeah.
So they head up with Delroy Lindo, who's...
You paid more attention to this mission scene than I did.
Yeah. I just like Delroy Lindo.
To me, it was just like, we got to get you guys on a plane transporting these 2 nukes, and I didn't read
And that's
any
exactly
more
what the point of the scene is.
Yeah.
It's just like set it.
But hearing you explain it a little bit better makes me kind of fall into it more. So
they go on the mission. They take off.
Well, and there's predecessing scenes with the villains that happen interspliced between these. So that's the first one with there's a park ranger who shows up in the middle of the canyon. And you see some hikers, and you think, oh, it's like, hey, you guys can't have a fire out here.
It's kind of brutal. He murders these two.
Well, and he's like, what's the fine for this sort of thing? And he pulls out a pistol, pretty steep, and murders them both in cold blood.
Pretty steep.
I remember that line.
It's a good line. The two dudes get the dude and his wife get dead.
Yeah, and like it's a bloody movie too. It's not
a lot
gory,
of squibs,
but there's a
lot of squibs. I love some squibs.
Yeah. But then the armed Humvee like shows up, and then that's when Bob Gunton comes out.
Yes.
This is the false ploy that he's going to be the big bad villain.
Move that body.
Because what this 1994 was Shawshank, right? So 2 years prior, you had seen him being this great Academy-worthy villain.
Yes.
In Shawshank, so you think, oh, this guy, he's gonna be, and then he's not, which we already talked about.
Yeah. But it's a good fake out.
It is a great fake out.
But they're
in the plane.
He and his little band of merry terrorists.
They're
getting ready to pull something. In this national park, the Glen Canyon National Park in Utah and Arizona.
It's not the Grand Canyon.
No, it is the Glen Canyon. I've been here actually.
Really?
Yes.
I've been to the Grand Canyon, but
I've been to a few places that they actually shot this movie. I did not realize. I was like, oh, I've been there.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
But it's the Glen Canyon's like literally the border of Utah and Arizona.
Okay. Okay. Cool.
Like, Lake Powell, Horseshoe Curve, all of those things.
Movie-wise, it's just to be said is the desert Southwest.
Yes, it's just a big old desert that John Woo can have fun with.
Yeah. So I believe the next scene is they're in the bomber.
Yeah, they get in the bomber.
And they're flying, and there's some talks about John Travolta's thing about him being a rule breaker.
Yeah.
Again, this is when I'm like the Qui-Gon Jinn thing, where I'm like, oh, he's a rule breaker. And then my thought is he's totally going to die.
Yeah.
And Christian Slater's going to have to like, I thought he's going to die in this movie, but not as a bad guy, but as a good guy.
Like halfway through, he'd sacrifice himself and like prove his worth.
Something like that. I was gearing up for that movie.
But no, they go off the grid.
They go off the grid.
Delroy Lindo's like, I can't find him. The thing works. And then once they're off the grid, Travolta's just like,
hey, look out your window.
He's like, yeah, look out your window. And then he punches Christian Slater.
He punches Christian Slater, pulls out a gun, and the two start a brawl in the cockpit of this bomber.
And then he ejects Christian Slater out.
Very smart move.
He knocks him out and ejects him out with the ejector seat.
Yep. And so then he's trying to fly the bomber, but it's a little out of control. And then he's getting ready to crash land it. And then that's when the bad guys are setting up their base camp. They got their spotlights. They're trying to signal down.
Yeah.
One nuke then gets ejected.
They drop both the nukes.
Okay, so this story. Did you know? And we may have a special guest in the next episode who can like verify the story. Adam, if you know the story, just hit me up here. So anyway, that's Jack Nicholson, by the way, not Adam. But so there was an actual. It wasn't a test. They were just simply transporting a nuke over the East Coast.
Yes,
this is from.
I'm aware of. I actually know this.
You know the story. So this is the story where they accidentally dropped a nuke in South Carolina. And the only reason why it didn't go off because it wasn't armed, but it was one button away from being armed. And I remember like there are people who talk about that story like, yeah, if one button had been pushed, the entire East Coast would have been lost.
It would have been a disaster.
Yeah.
The U.S. Air Force paid the family so much money.
The family?
Oh, it landed on a family's farm.
But it didn't go off.
But a nuke landed in their property.
Yeah.
They got a lot of money from the government for that.
But yeah, one button and we would have lost the East Coast.
Yes.
Real story that happened, folks. Google it.
Yeah. Broken Arrow.
Broken Arrow.
Does the same thing, except John Travolta's doing it intentionally.
He's doing it intentionally.
Because he's dropping these bombs for him and
them
the boys
to pick up. Yeah.
But the plane crashes.
And that's when I wrote down, he's a bad guy.
Yeah. Delroy Lindo detects the plane because it's like swerving and getting ready to crash. And he's like, oh, I found them, those sons of bitches. Meanwhile, Travolta's like...
And that's when John Travolta goes over the radio and says, it's Hale, sir. He's lost it.
Yeah.
And that's, that's a fake out. That's like they think Hale's the bad guy. But again, smart bad guy moves in this movie.
Travolta makes a lot of smart bad guy moves.
I mean, it's written pretty smart for the bad guy.
Yeah.
And he just pulls them off really well.
He ejects himself out.
Yes.
And then we cut to Washington, D.C.
There's a White House conference.
Yes. And you know who walked, and it's a like Joint Chiefs of Staff and like generals and so on. It's not really like that important, but you know who's in the scene.
I thought I wrote it down because I think I know who you're talking about.
There's like the young upshot, like in the military.
Yeah.
Who walks in.
The ROTC lieutenant from Yale.
Yeah, do you know who plays him?
What's his name? I know who he is. I just don't.
It's Brett from Pulp Fiction. Look at the mouth on Brett. I forget what the actual line is.
I don't remember this bit.
No, it's the guy from Pulp Fiction who Sam Jackson points the gun at in the opening.
Oh, yeah.
Who's eating the big kahuna burger.
And he's like, what?
Yeah, it's a guy.
Say what again?
It's the what guy.
English, motherfucker. Do you speak it?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's who this ROTC lieutenant from Yale is.
Good to see him again.
But he immediately like kind of sees that there's something fishy going on. He's like, send me out there.
Yeah, and they're trying to decide like what optics do they put out?
What optics?
What optics do they put out for this? And they're thinking, well, it was just a weapons test or whatever. And he's like, I don't know, guys. Like there are some lawn chair guys that look for these things, and if they know, they're gonna know.
Like the best thing to do is the truth, and all the generals laugh because like the government can't.
They're like, what? Who brought you into this? But yeah, he senses something shady's going on. Again, what's the actor's name again?
Frank Whaley.
Frank
Whaley.
Whaley.
Whaley or Wally.
I'm gonna call him Wally.
You say Wally, I'll say Whaley.
Okay, cool. So Wally then goes out to the crash site.
Yes, he goes out to the crash site.
And he's talking with...
And there's a recovery team there.
Yeah, there's a recovery team. It's at this point when Slater wakes up in the desert.
Yeah, and he's immediately arrested by a park ranger.
Yeah, played by Samantha Mathis.
Yes,
who's
very charming in this.
Very charming, but was she in any... Like, what did she do? Like
Samantha Mathis? Let me check.
I don't... was she big before this, and did she do anything after this? Because I want to say this might have been like... Maybe not her biggest role.
She is actually the vice president of SAG-AFTRA.
Oh.
Like nowadays. At the time that she did Broken Arrow, it looks like she was just like popping up in a lot of TV shows and a lot of like small movie roles.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say this is her first big role. Oh no, she's Princess Daisy in the live-action Super Mario Brothers. She's also in the 1994 Little Women.
Okay, so like 3-ish movies, kind of.
Yes. She had popped up in a lot of stuff prior to this, but she was never like, the lead action person.
And she's a good park ranger.
Yes.
This is the classic, like, fish out of water and all that
Cop
stuff.
who actually plays by the rules.
Cop who actually plays by the rules.
Except it's park ranger.
Except it's a park ranger.
Who's out of her depth.
And she's armed with a gun.
Yes. And so
park rangers have guns, by the way.
She tries to arrest Christian Slater. She's like, what are you doing here? And eventually he like wins her over by pointing a gun at her and saying, if I wanted you dead, I would shoot.
Yeah, because he takes her gun and he's like, I don't have it loaded. He's like, I don't have it loaded. And he's like, oh. And then she gets the upper hand. And then he gets the upper hand again because then she gets the upper hand and points a gun at him and says, you said it wasn't loaded. And then she fires it in the air. It's like, I lied. Good bit. And then he overpowers her again. And now he has the gun and they both know it's loaded.
And her name's Terry.
Terry. And that's when he says, we both know this gun's loaded and I could kill you. Yeah. And then he gives it back to her as a sign of good faith.
And they have a sense of trust. So they go back to her car.
That's when I write down, they join forces?
Yeah, they join forces. Park ranger and Air Force pilot. But they head back to her car. Mm-hmm. And then immediately Slater, Hale detects something. Because earlier Terry had radioed in that she saw a parachute coming down. And so our terrorist friends, who are now linked up with John Travolta.
Yeah, John Travolta found them fast.
He found them very fast. There's a very funny slow-mo shot of him emerging over
one of the rocks.
Over a rock in slow-mo, and he pulls a cigarette out of his mouth in slow-mo, and he says what about me? Or something like that. It's very funny.
Does he already change in this, or does he change later?
He changes later. He comes over in his Air Force.
He's like, I ain't got time for this Air Force camo shit. He changes into the turtleneck sweater villain costume, which works, right? I mean, it works.
He rocks it.
He rocks it. Absolutely rocks it.
So he's linked up with them, and he's sends a helicopter to go find this park ranger who maybe saw Hale, because he's like, Hale might be alive. The helicopter shows up and it blows up Terry's car.
Yeah.
Hale and Terry retreat into a canyon, the Glen Canyon, titular to Glen Canyon National Park.
Great.
The titular Glen Canyon.
Great. Thank you.
They go into it and the helicopter's and they're hiding out. And
They have some pretty big firepower, these terrorists do. I mean, whoever financed all this stuff.
Well, Bob, whatever his name is, financed.
Bob Guntworth.
Bob Gunworth financed
Bob
them.
Gunton, not
Whatever his job is, he financed them.
Yeah, he got them choppers, he got them Humvees, he got them like machine guns. Like he
got them Sean Tube.
Imagine what he could do with all this fundraising skills for like a children's hospital. Probably a lot. But he wants to buy 2 nukes.
Yes, he wants to ransom 2 nukes and sell them back to the U.S.
Yeah.
But he's pointing a gun, and Hale can't get a shot, and he's like, I just need the helicopter to stand still. So Terry's like, okay, so she runs up right in the line of fire.
Runs up to the helicopter.
And is like,
she's like,
she's like, I don't know where he is. I'm just a park ranger. And the helicopter pilot hesitates just enough that Hale points the gun, gets a shot,
shoots through the cockpit of the helicopter, kills the pilot,
who like explodes in a thing of blood. The helicopter swerves down and explodes. There's a lot of exploding helicopters in this movie. At least 3 or 4 explode.
A satisfying amount.
Yes, the correct amount. If every movie could have this many helicopters explode.
If you're Michael Bay and you're seeing how many helicopter explosions can I fit in one movie, watch Broken Arrow, bitch.
I don't even think I think every movie. Like, I'm saying like halfway through Little Women, we should have seen 3 helicopters go down.
Like, in the English Patient, there should have been 3, and in Schindler's List,
Schindler's List should have been 3 helicopters go. Every movie should have 3, like at least 3 helicopters that go down.
Braveheart, there should have been 3
and we need more helicopter crashes in movies, is what I'm saying.
100%, I agree. I do not disagree with you on this point.
And it's the 90s, so it's all models.
Yeah,
and actual models that someone spent a lot of time building so that they could immediately explode it.
Great stuff.
Which I love.
Great stuff.
These helicopters explosions look great.
So it's at this point when the military search party has found both nukes. They find both nukes before the terrorists do.
Well, they find one of the nukes because like they have the radiology scanning stuff, which the terrorists don't. And so they're letting the military get to them.
Oh yeah. Because they
find one, they send a few more guys ahead.
Because they have another traitor.
Yeah.
There's another, but there's another guy they buy it all off.
Yes.
It's not just John Travolta.
Yes.
There's another guy in the military who he knew he would be in the search party.
Yeah. It's Howie Long is Master Sergeant Kelly.
Right. Yeah. Howie Long.
But
I think did most of his own stunts in this movie.
Yeah. He apparently the studio liked him and they actually put him in more of the movie than he was written for.
Yeah.
But you know they find the nukes and then a terrorist starts shooting at them. They return fire and they actually kill the terrorist. But then Master Sergeant, whatever his name is,
Howie Long,
pulls a gun and shoots all of his compatriots.
Yeah.
Grabs like the microphone that's like transmitting to Washington. Is like, no,
the core is open.
The core is open. Radiation. And then he like unplugs the thing.
Yeah.
And so now the military can't send any more dudes in
because they think they got an open core and leaking radiation, which would be dangerous for any search party to come by.
Yes. I just realized I haven't been looking at my notebook because I've just been winging it.
Well, we have been bouncing around a little bit because I think that actually happens later. But for the most part, we're kind of on track because, yes, they kill the military search party.
Yeah.
They secure all the nukes. And which apparently, like, this terrorist group can hack and jam military comms so easily. So easily. Like, I mean, kudos to them. Bob Gunton really went to town on the technology that they were going to bring to this. So much so that they can not only hack into and monitor what the military is saying, but then they can jam it too.
Yeah. It's good stuff.
I'm just saying, man.
Well,
it's pretty cool.
I think it's less than. It's more just like that they have the military stuff because they take it from all those dead dudes.
Yeah. Well, so it's at this point we get a more comprehensive thought of what the plan is with Travolta and company.
And he gives a little monologue to Bob Gunworth.
Well, this is when they're talking about like the whole plan, which is they're going to take the nukes, they're going to ransom them, and then sell them back. But John Travolta has some ulterior motives.
Yes. He wants to get back at the military.
Yeah, he's more trigger happy.
Yeah, so the plan is they're going to steal these 2 nukes, hide them in a radiology department of a hospital so that they can't detect the radiation.
And maybe I'm just a dumb human being, but a lot of the decisions they're making with the whole like calling off the whole like radiation open thing to the hiding one in a radiology department of a hospital all seem pretty...
Like I'm saying, it's a script that maybe it's not great, but it doesn't have holes in it. So there's nothing there's no hole for John Woo, the actors, to fall down. It's a solid surface to build on.
I just thought of another one that's like this. Would you say The Rock, Nicolas Cage, and
I have a confession.
Sean
I've never seen
Connery?
The Rock.
Really?
I've never seen The
It's a
Rock.
good. It's one of my.
I've heard
faves.
really good things.
It's a good
but
one.
Yeah.
You should watch it. It's a good 7 out of 10.
I am a defender of Michael Bay, and I've never seen The Rock.
It's a good,
inexplicably.
It's a good,
inexplicably.
it's a good example of what we're talking about
Yeah.
here. It's a great one.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But Travolta gives this little monologue because at that point they know that Hale is still alive because the helicopter explodes,
Yeah.
as we know and love. And Travolta gives this little
Like
monologue
Uncle
where he's
Bob.
like, "This is now a military operation." And he's like going up to like Bob Gunton.
Oh yeah, because Bob is like, you
He's
don't
like,
have this
he's
under
like,
control.
I planned and flew over 100 missions in the Gulf. This is battle. This is a highly fluid situation. You plan your contingencies. You keep your initiative, but you never share command. It's never a good idea. I will deliver the weapons to the destination.
Jeff, you read that.
I did just read that.
You read that.
Because I could not remember what his whole thing. But it's really, John Travolta really sells it. It's really funny as well.
Yeah, he sells a lot of. He sells it very well in this movie.
Yeah.
So after this like big monologue, that's when Slater and Mathis find the trucks.
Yeah, she's like, yeah, they know some sketchy trucks coming. So they find some trucks, and they jump on top of them.
They
from a cliff.
jump on top of the front one.
Yes.
There's 2 trucks that are being
The
transported.
front one has the nukes. The back one has Travolta
and the guy
Gunton
and
all of
company,
them.
Travolta
Yes.
and company.
And Bob Gunton, who's just complaining the whole time.
And I love this bit that
Yeah.
gets introduced in this movie, which is when gunfire starts getting exchanged. John Travolta stops one of his instruments. Like, can you please not fire at the nuclear weapons?
Please stop shooting at the thermonuclear weapons.
Which is something that I immediately thought of when
Yeah.
the gunfight started happening. I'm like, they're shooting at nukes right
Yeah.
now. And then when John Travolta said it,
Yeah.
I'm like, thank you.
This movie, like I said, patches over all the holes you would like.
Yeah.
And like maybe it doesn't make sense at the end of the day entirely, but the holes aren't there.
Right. The holes aren't there.
Yeah.
And I wrote down things like, like they're doing a lot
Yeah.
on this truck to try to like get control. I'm thinking, rather than jump on it, like you don't want to like shoot the tires out or something.
Well,
or,
they
like-
need the truck to drive away with.
I guess so.
But this is
That makes
I think
sense.
this is a really good action sequence. It's very indebted to the Raiders of the Lost Ark truck sequence.
Yeah.
It even like pulls the same bit where he was like dragging behind it and like they're trying to ram him and whatnot. But I mean that's one of the great action sequences. You can't blame them for trying to
Can
crit that.
Can I say this early? What my least favorite part of this film is?
What?
Christian Slater.
Christian Slater?
I just like every time I saw him, and maybe because I'm biased, maybe I just love John Travolta so
Yeah.
much now
You're
that I
welcome.
only want to see him. But I just felt I don't know. What do you think? Like when I saw Christian
Christian
Slater,
Slater, he's
I just saw him and I'm like, okay,
he's
fine.
doing the job. He's not the main like enjoyment. Like
felt-
Travolta's the like he's a whole ham sandwich.
It felt pretty bare
He's-
minimum.
He's a roast ham. In
It's
this
John
movie.
Travolta plus his character that he's
Yeah.
putting onto it. Christian Slater is just being Christian
Yeah,
Slater. and
he's just doing his thing.
he's doing the cool guy suave bit. And
Yeah.
it's just like, like, come on, man. Like, John Travolta's at least, like, doing weird smiles and laughs. And he's like,
He's very funny.
like, I don't know.
He's so funny in this. Can we just
Yeah.
say he's so funny in this?
He's pretty funny.
He's so over the top and so funny.
Yeah. So they get away.
Yeah, they get away with the truck with the nukes.
Yeah. He like, tosses, like, not a Molotov, but, like, he catches the
He
back
catches
van
the other truck on fire.
Yeah.
And Troll's like, I didn't see that coming. He's good.
and he, like, says, I owe you.
Yeah.
With $20. You won this
Yeah.
round. Because earlier, when he ejects him from the pilot seat in the bomber, he's like, you won that round. So this whole bit is like them going back and forth. It's like,
Yeah.
there are lives at stake here, gentlemen.
We do not need to worry about this $20 bet.
Right. So they drive away, and the park ranger lets them know, it's like, well, where can we go to hide these nukes or whatever? It's like, there's a mine up ahead.
Yeah. And they go to the mine, and they find a fresh lock on it.
A fresh lock
And they
on it.
realize Travolta was planning on coming here with the nukes anyway.
Because and what I love, it happens right after the scene.
Yeah.
Because John Travolta's in the truck, they just put it out. Which I guess if a truck catches on fire, all you have to do is just put it out with fire extinguishers, and it'll
Yeah.
run again.
Yes. That's
Whatever.
how that works.
Whatever. Don't care. It's fine. But they get in the truck again. They're like, okay, where are they gonna go? It's like they're going the same place we're going. How do you know? It's the only damn thing on this road.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my god. It's like they're
And
patching
Travolta's
up.
like, because I know this guy and I know what he'll do.
Yeah. So anyway, so they know they're at the mine. Hale and Mathis, Hale and Terry knows that they're coming to the mine.
So they try and deactivate the nuke.
Right.
But Travolta's already thought that they'll try and do that, so he's hardwired the nuke. So if you try and deactivate it,
it'll activate it, and the timer starts.
Yeah, starts with a 30-minute timer.
Oh my god!
And then they get a phone call from John Travolta, who's just like, "I knew you would do that."
Well, because
the
it's
clock is ticking.
It's a battle of wits in that phone call. He's like, he calls Hale, and Hale's like, I know where you guys are going. We already have the nukes. We're deactivating it now. He's like, you think you got the upper hand here, don't you? And then as he deactivates it and the timer starts, it's like, I bet you tried deactivating it. Well, I already thought of that.
Yeah.
It's just really well done.
It's so funny. So Hale's like, all right, the only thing we do is bring the nuke really deep into the mine.
2000.
Next to the undetonated one. And detonate them both so that Travolta can't get them, and the only damage is deep underground.
2,000 feet.
2,000 feet.
Do you know what the blast radius of a nuclear weapon is?
A little more than 2,000 feet.
A little more than 2,000 feet.
There's at the very least a lot of rock blocking it.
Still.
Yes, it would cause a little more damage than what happens in this movie.
And like, is this laying on any fault lines?
It does cause an earthquake.
It does, but like, I don't know. I would love to watch a... what do you call it? A seismologist, which studies earthquakes. And I would also love to put a seismologist and a nuclear physicist together, watch this scene and be like, is this how that would really happen? Just a crater? Is that all that would happen? There'd be no radiation floating out. There'd be nothing like a bigger earthquake. It just seems like when the nuke goes off underground.
Oh, I'm not a nuclear engineer. I'm not sure.
I'm just curious.
Yes, I am curious as well.
As like... as I said earlier in the episode, I wrote that down. When the nuke goes off, I'm like, I'm pretty sure it'd been pretty fucking bad.
Yeah.
But whatever. So they send the nuke down.
Yes.
In the elevator.
And then Travolta and his boys show up.
They're close behind.
Yes, they go down, and the gunfight breaks down in the mines.
Great gunfight.
Yeah, it's pretty much, Hans Zimmer does the score for this movie. And at this moment, it sounds like it's like and I'm like, what the hell?
It's like Pirates of the Caribbean.
Except instead of Johnny Depp running around or whatever, it's Christian Slater and John Travolta. Oh, I'm gonna shoot this.
Well, this is before the first movie.
Yeah,
which
well before.
Hans Zimmer didn't even compose the first
Klaus
movie.
Badelt did.
Right.
Fascinating. Yes. Well, I mean, he's part of Hans Zimmer is not a person. It's a company.
But there's a person.
Yeah, I mean, Hans Zimmer is a person as well, and he does actually compose several scores. But a lot of Hans Zimmer scores are done by his company.
Yeah. He's a human being.
We're gonna have a guest on this podcast eventually who has actually worked for that with them.
Really?
Yeah, so we can talk to him about that.
That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, it will be.
I wonder who that guest is. Not Jack Nicholson.
We will be recording it very soon.
Yeah.
But at the same time this fight's breaking out, Travolta has sent a video to the president.
Yeah, when did he make this video? Like, when
he
was
must have just brought a camera and been like, all right, film me. But the Joint Chiefs of Staff and the cabinet are all watching. It's John Travolta, and he's just like, if you try and come for me, I will detonate the nuclear device.
If you don't send the ransom, this is what will happen. Yeah. Cut to stock footage of nuclear destruction happening.
Oh yeah, there's a moment right before this that I thought was a little lame in regards to the movie. So Travolta does do that thing where he tries to lead the government on that Hale is the traitor. And the resolution that has happened as Delroy Lindo hands the guy, Frank Whaley, a piece of paper and says, oh, yeah, the NSA intercepted as Travolta who's doing the crime, actually. And that's how that's resolved. Oh. It's like it doesn't really matter, but it was a little lame.
I kind of forgot partway through that the military thought it was Hale. Yes. So it didn't really bother me anyway.
It wasn't that important.
Yeah. So the gunfight in the mine.
Yes. And if Travolta does regain control of the nukes, he gets the undetonated...
One of them, yeah.
He gets the undetonated one out, and then he decreases the timer on
because it was a 30-minute timer before.
And he drops to 13.
Yeah.
So it was at 20, and he drops it down to 13. He's like, that seems more right.
That seems more right to me.
Because he's a lunatic.
So him and the rest of his goons, because some of his goons do die in this gunfight.
Eventually he gets a standoff with Slater.
There's a really cool scene. I think it's probably during the standoff, because Slater's fighting Travolta, but he's also got a gunfight with somebody else behind him who Mathis is fighting.
Yeah. And there's a lot of John Woo, guns akimbo, slow-mo, dudes jumping.
Oh, yeah.
Every John Woo movie has the dudes akimbo guy jumping in slow-mo. Yeah. Mission Impossible 2 does it.
Oh, my
Face Off
gosh.
does it.
And there's one point where the guy throws a grenade, Christian Slater grabs it and then throws it like over, and it like causes like a whole like a cave in basically. Only like the one guy dies, but it's like Slater and Travolta are like trapped like
on opposite sides of
this wall,
and they have a very like villainous, like, "You're not so different, you and I" speech.
That's the perfect way to say it. A not so different you and I speech.
I watched a movie a few days ago where a guy actually said that. I can't remember what though.
We're not so different, you and I.
I can't remember what, but they did that.
I'm nothing like you. Was it Spider-Man 2?
No, it was not Spider-Man.
Or Spider-Man 1?
Oh, it was a Fast and Furious movie. That's what it was.
Which one was it? Hobbs and
I can't remember. There's 10 of those movies I watched. I can't remember which of them it was.
They go to space in one of them apparently.
Yes, they do go into space in the new one.
Which we like to interrupt this podcast. This podcast brought to you by
Fast 9.
Fast 9.
Support movie theaters. But that's when Travolta support movie theaters. They're good.
Support movie theaters.
But Travolta lays out his plan. He's like, I'm gonna,
set one off.
He's like, I'm gonna set one off to show I'm not bluffing. Sell the other nuke back to the U.S. and then take my money and invest it and buy 5% of Volvo. I'm gonna live the rest of my life off the dividends, off of the. He's like, knowing securely that I'm partially responsible for the safest automobiles in the world. I'm like, John,
dude.
The way he delivers the line, the safest automobiles in the world. John, my man. Yes. Thank you.
Killing it. He killed it. He's killing it.
And then he leaves. Slater and Matheson realize, or Mathis.
There's a river underneath.
Yeah, they realize there's a river.
Because they can't get out. Oh.
And she's like, that's why the mine closed, because they hit a river.
Well, I think they originally were going to try to get out through the elevator, but John Travolta intelligently drops grenades on the elevator so they can't get out. So then they're trapped in this mine.
So they escape into the river and they make it out into the Glen Canyon, the titular Glen Canyon of Glen Canyon National Park. They make it out into the Glen Canyon. And at that point, the nuke goes off.
Yeah, underground.
And they're fine because they made it out. Travolta was being attacked by a military helicopter.
Yeah, there was another military helicopter.
Turn the electricity off.
Because Bob Gunton is still in...
He's still in the car with them.
He's by the way, Bob Gunton's still in this movie.
He's still in this car complaining.
He's like, "What the fuck are you doing?" And like, turn everything off. And he's like, Bob Gunton's freaking out because there's like chopper over them.
And the
nuke goes off, and the EMP
destroys the helicopter.
It explodes, and then
causes a little earthquake.
And then John Travolta, what does he do? He kills him, but how does he kill him?
He grabs like a wrench and
he slams it against his neck. And then dies.
And he dies. And then they toss him out the side of the car.
Yeah.
R.I.P. Bob Gunton. I hope he got paid well for this movie.
I'm sure he did. Yeah.
But Travolta continues on.
Yeah.
At that point, Mathis and Slater are escaped. She has a little freak out. She's like, "We're gonna die of radiation." And Slater's like, "If you look, you can see the butterflies, and they're not dying of the radiation."
That's what they say in the manual.
He's like, "If you see butterflies," and she's like, "That's bullshit." And he's like, "Yeah, but it's still kind of true." And so they walk down the river that they're on, and they see a little dock, and they see two dudes.
Yeah.
And so they stand there watching. Travolta shows up with his remaining two guys. There's like two guys left.
Yeah.
Bob Gunton, R.I.P. They board a little boat.
Yeah.
And they take off. Mathis is able to jump on the boat and hide. Slater does not make it.
Not part of the plan.
Because he tells her not to get involved anymore. It's like his responsibility. She's just a park ranger. But she feels an obligation at this point.
So she jumps on the boat and she hides.
And Slater's picked up by the government.
Yeah.
While Travolta and all of them go. And they get on a train. Slater's with the government. He's with Delroy Lindo and all the boys.
The train.
Frank Whaley and all of them. And they're trying to figure out where's he going.
And because this is when, he says, they're going to hide in a hospital at Salt Lake because there's a badge. He found a badge in the Humvee that said, a radiology department in Salt Lake City.
But then
I love this bit so
Christian
much.
Slater's like, no. This guy's been doing the
rope-a-dope.
The rope-a-dope the whole movie. And Delroy's like,
what the fuck is saying
rope-a-dope? Delroy's so funny. But
he planted the badge to make
He's really going to Denver.
I mean,
and he's like, you guys have already shut down Salt Lake City. What's the harm in going to Denver?
I mean, props to the writer who was writing this down, who was like, He planted the badge.
Yes. So they they follow the tracks to Denver in a helicopter. Meanwhile, Mathis is like on this train trying to deactivate the nuke.
Yeah.
Travolta catches her, and he holds a gun to her head. And he's like,
oh, this scene is weird.
And he's like, turn the nuke on.
No, you gotta say the way he does it. It's like, so audience members, imagine you're Mathis in this situation, and you have a gun pointed right at your head. John Travolta comes up to your ear like I am right now, and he says, activate the bomb.
Yeah.
And the scene plays out.
There's a lot of sexual tension.
Very sensually.
There's a lot of sexual tension.
Because he like then points. He uses the gun to like move her fingers over the right buttons.
It's essentially like a manipulation, exploitation. Like
yeah.
I don't want to say like it's a rape scene, but it has like that kind of tonality of like he's like exploiting her in this moment. It's a power trip for him. It's
the sense that it comes out of nowhere.
Yes.
That like we haven't seen this side of him in the entire movie. Yeah. Why are we seeing it now? Yeah. And like it seems a little weird to me, and because it goes on for a bit.
It's quite a long scene. It's
quite
like
a long scene where he's just like moving her fingers with the pistol, making her press these buttons, and he's just being like, press the button, press the activation button. And it's just like, what the fuck is going on here?
She says no.
Eventually,
and he opens up the side of the door to shoot her and throw her body off. But then who's there? Slater in a helicopter. Who open fires and kills one of the dudes in there.
Yeah.
Slater jumps onto the train. We get a really cool train action sequence.
A long train action sequence.
Travolta is so pleased to see Slater there. Like, even though he's disrupting his plan, he's like, you figured it out. He's like, at one point he says, I said, God damn. God damn, son.
I said, God damn.
He is so hyped up about this. Like, he's like, finally, this guy understands me. I feel so pleased to finally, like, have the, like, an adversary.
Because in the end, he is still kind of like his mentor figure.
Yeah, he's still kind of friendly with him.
Yeah.
But a fight breaks out. There's a lot of bits in the fight.
A lot of dudes die via helicopter blade.
Darlin is like, give him a haircut. And they pull up right next to the train. And the blades are on top of the train, chopping dudes up. It's so funny.
It's not graphic. Like, it doesn't show it, but it's just like...
one of them.
It shows one of them, but it's not like explicitly bloody.
It's
like
very funny, though.
It's like if they clearly put a dummy there and a blade chopped the dummy up. You know, it's not like a dummy full of blood and guts.
Yeah.
Or, you know, if Tarantino did that scene, it'd be much more graphic.
Very
than it was.
funny though. They're chopping dudes up the blade.
Give him a haircut. What the fuck?
And then Mathis is like trying to get to the nuke as his Slater, and she runs into Sean Tube, who I had only seen previously in Iron Man as Jensen.
Jensen, I forgot about this.
He's also
bit.
in The Last Airbender as Uncle Iroh. That's sadly the only two movies I've seen him in.
Oh.
But I mostly just know him as playing like calm, like nice, like wise figures from those two roles.
And what's he in this?
He's literally like, I'm a former Navy SEAL.
Well, okay, so,
you don't know some of the things I've done with my thumb.
So what I love about this,
and then Mathis kills him.
So Jensen, what's his name?
Sean
Tube is working on this nuke, and she comes up to him, and he's like dressed like a scientist. And the movie with the audience is trying to think, oh, like she's going to sneak up on the scientist guy. But Mathis gets her ass whipped.
Yeah.
Because this guy's like, you probably thought I was a scientist, a nerd. I'm a Navy SEAL.
I can do things with my thumb you could not comprehend. That's an actual line.
It is an actual line. And then Mathis does kill him.
Yeah,
I love that bit in the movie.
Shoots him in the head.
It's a great bit. Great bit.
Very good bit.
So then it's just Hale and Deke left.
Yes, it's the two of them in the nuke room in a slug fight. It's a pretty good brawl.
It is a good brawl.
There's not really much more to say about it. It's well
shot. I mean, it's just like, you know, John Travolta's getting the upper hand for a while, but then eventually Hale overcomes him.
They go into a tunnel, and Delroy Lindo sadly dies in a helicopter crash. The U.S. helicopter explodes.
Yeah.
Once again, number 3 helicopter. Good stuff. But we're just left with Deke and Hale. And, you know, they're fighting, and eventually, like, Hale gets the knowledge of like how to do the rope-a-dope on him, and he tricks Travolta into thinking he's going to punch one way, and then he gets the upper hand and beats Travolta.
Yeah,
throws him against a wall. He grabs the detonator, with like 5 seconds left to spare, as action movies are wont to do.
Because he activates the nuke on the train.
Yes.
And makes it 6 minutes.
Yeah. And at the same time, Mathis had disconnected in a car from the rest of the train.
Yes.
So there's now a car that's ahead of the rest of the train.
Yeah.
Or she takes the actual like engine, like the train part of it, ahead and then stops it. So now the nuke part that's like just coasting behind will crash into that.
Right.
So it's coasting along. Slater sees this. He jumps off the side of the train, midair in slow-mo, hits the deactivation button. The nuke deactivates. He escapes.
Train car.
The train collides.
Hits the engine car.
Travolta looks up and smiles as the nuke flies towards him.
Purely out of inertia.
Yeah. The nuke impales John Travolta.
Impales the
Travolta's
man.
impaled by a nuclear device, flung out of the train. A massive explosion occurs. Travolta's like incinerated with this nuke attached to him.
Hale and Mathis.
It is such a good death scene.
It's amazing.
The ragdoll for John Travolta that flies out of the train is so funny.
It is so funny.
It is a great culmination of this action
And
scene.
his smile, too. He does a smile
He's
thing.
like, I got beaten, but it was good.
It was good.
He explodes.
Mathis and Slater are safely off the train.
They reunite.
And
they introduce each other because they never learned each other's names.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, I'm
Samantha
Hale.
Terry.
And she's like, I'm
Riley.
Terry.
Yeah.
And then cut to credits.
Cut to
Directed
credits.
by John Woo.
Yeah.
Such a fun movie.
A very fun
Like
movie.
when I say this is 7 out of 10, I don't mean that as a slight. I mean, I love this movie. I thought it was such a good time.
I may not watch it again.
Yeah.
But
I had a great time
I had a
doing it.
great time watching it. Yeah. Travolta's the best part of this movie. I mean, right?
Yes, absolutely.
He's the best part of this movie.
This is absolutely something that just like it defines. It's what Travolta will do for a lot of other movies. Is this kind of archetype?
Yeah.
And it's because this performance is so great.
Yeah.
This movie comes out. It does fairly well at the box. It's not like a major hit. It makes $150 million on a budget of $50 million. That's 3 times its budget.
Pretty good.
Pretty respectable.
Gets John Woo more movies.
Yeah, gets John Woo movies. Gets Travolta more movies after this. He's proving himself to like he can make.
Does it get Slater more movies after this?
Yeah, Slater's in a few more things after this.
I feel like it was more of a Travolta hit than a Slater.
Yeah,
hit,
it was a Travolta hit.
I mean, he's top billed. You know.
Yes. It comes out. It gets pretty average reviews. Everyone's like, well-made movie.
Yeah.
Good fun.
It's good fun on the
I don't
weekend.
think
in the
there's not
summer.
really anyone who hates this movie.
Good summer blockbuster.
Actually, here's the Rotten Tomatoes synopsis. John Woo adds pyrotechnical ace to John Travolta's hammy performance, which is such a great way to say this.
It is a great way to say it.
There's one person who dislikes this movie, though, and it makes me mad. Roger Ebert disliked this movie. And it was the time he was doing Ebert and Siskel.
I heard about
Roger
this.
Ebert convinced Gene Siskel to dislike this movie.
Because Siskel originally liked it,
Yeah.
and they had a long talk, and
Yeah.
he convinced Siskel to do thumbs down.
And it was the only time he'd convinced him to change his review, which makes me mad, because this movie is definitely a thumbs up. You don't even have to love this movie and be like, yeah, competently made, entertaining. Give it a little thumbs up.
Yeah.
Give it a little thummy. You don't know the things I can do with my thumbs. Sean 2, 1996.
God damn.
But yeah, another hit for Travolta.
Another
in this
hit for
period of
Travolta.
hits for him.
Yeah.
He's, back, baby.
Yeah, this is the solidified, Pulp Fiction wasn't just a fluke.
Yeah.
Travolta really can bring the thunder into a role.
Pulp Fiction restarted it. Movies like Get Shorty solidified it. And this is a movie that just keeps it going. This is the movie that you expect a movie star to do.
Yeah.
He does it. Maybe it's not his best movie, but it's a movie that a movie star's doing. You saw it because of the movie star. And you had a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah, Broken Arrow.
R.I.P. Bob Gunton.
R.I.P. Bob Gunton thrown into the Glen Canyon National Park casually on the side of the road.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought this movie is so much fun.
Yeah, I did too. And I'm so happy we're finally getting able to talk about movies that we can nicely sit through.
Yes, dig into.
We had some entertaining but yet painful experiences of movies that were hard to sit through. This was not hard to sit through.
No, this was well worth the time.
Yeah, this was well worth the afternoon that I had to spend, But next week,
we'll be having a phenomenon. Do you have any last thoughts on this before we get into I close this out?
I would the best encapsulating phrase that I would say really describes this movie the best is going back to what you said earlier, which is that 7 out of 10, very cookie cutter concrete script, but with a good director, good actor. This is an example
Build a strong
of that.
thing on top of the foundation.
Yeah, this is an example of that movie. So if you're into those types of things, again, The Rock, Air Force One, those types of films, this would be a good one.
It's a good programmer.
Yeah.
And I mean that in the most loving way possible.
Yeah.
That's
it for me.
That's Broken Arrow.
That's Broken Arrow.
Good movie.
Great movie.
But yeah, next week we'll be talking about Phenomenon with a very special guest.
Our very special guest.
We'll be recording that episode very soon.
Yeah.
With said guest.
Our recording session's pretty soon here, Jeff, and he's not here yet, so...
Yeah, we might have to plug Jack Nicholson.
We might have to plug Jack Nicholson or at least delay this.
You might need me for this one.
Hey, get the fuck back in your room, Jack.
God, this fucking
Come on.
This guy.
Is he permanently moved in?
No, he's moving around.
I don't know what that means.
He's between homes.
I don't know what that means.
Thanks everyone for listening. Please remember to rate, review, subscribe on whatever platform you are listening on. As a reminder, we are on Spotify. We are on Apple Podcasts. We are on YouTube. We are on Google Podcasts. Find us at Travolting Pod on Twitter or Instagram for updates and fun stuff. Pop into our Reddit, r/Travolting. It's a good time.
Anything happened on that Reddit?
There's been 2 things there, and it's like 6-month lifespan. Email any comments or questions, travoltingpodcast@gmail.com. Find me on Twitter, at Jeff W. Sweeney.
Find me on Instagram at StuartElmore95.
Special thanks to Rebecca Johnson for our graphic design as always, and Michael Van Bodegum Smith for the new theme music that is currently leading you out. Have a great week, folks. See you for the Phenomenon.
Bye.